Hey, 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 happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, amazingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. Yes, I am the founder and editor-in-chief of the Gaming Gang. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, August 11th, 2021. This is live stream 685. If this is your first time joining me, let me point out this is very, very casual. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news and taking looks at tabletop games. So we're not practicing rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. Important to keep that in mind. So tonight, I am going to be taking a first look and paging through Sigil Shadow from Osprey Games. This is a new role-playing game of urban fantasy and occult horror written by R.E. Davis. So we're going to dive into this in a little bit. So once again, if you're not familiar with the show, I should mention that about half of the show is devoted to tabletop gaming news, and then we move on into a first look at a tabletop game. Tonight, it is Sigil and Shadow, which I swear, I keep wanting to call it Sigil and Smoke, and I don't know why, because that's not the name of it. Maybe it's because the cover has, well, I'll show it to you when we take a look at the book again. It has like these, like kind of smoky creatures or like ghostly entities. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I keep thinking of smoke. Who knows? Anyway, do want to mention, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live right here on YouTube, also let you know when I upload other videos, such as tomorrow's review of Atlantic Chase from GMT Games. Yes, I finally reshot my review for Atlantic Chase. Actually, Beat Cafe, who happens to catch the show quite often, was the winner of this in the auction. So this is actually shipping out later this week. So I did finally finish doing my reshoot of the review, and I needed to do some graphics as well. So that is all done. It is uploaded to YouTube, so it'll be live tomorrow morning. Check it out. I know there are a lot of people out there very interested in the game and very intimidated by what they've heard about the game as well. I go into some detail about that to try to put some folks' minds at ease. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And since this is a live stream, that also means chat is available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours to take part in chat as well. But if you got a comment, question, maybe you just want to say howdy, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. So far, right out the gate, we've got the Motor City Madman is joining us. Yes, the Madman is here. The Madman happens to be one of our chat moderators. Very good to see him. Nicholas Stanishek is with us. Boris has joined us as well. So, I was wondering how long it would take for anyone in chat. It's the madman here saying, hey, there's no hat. Oh, I'm sorry. Nicholas was the first one to say there's no hat. No, I'm not wearing a hat tonight. I can easily put a hat on. It's no problem. I just thought I would go without a hat, which I do every few years on the stream. I almost always wear a hat. But if you follow the show, you know that about a little more than 3 weeks ago, I was trimming my own hair and I screwed up. And the guard on the trimmer popped off and I didn't know about it. And I went, so it was to the scalp. So I had relatively, well, I was almost done trimming my hair, but it was a little longer, you know, a lot longer than buzzed down to my scalp. So I just ended up buzzing it all off. So it has come in. The light makes it look kind of odd because there is a lot of light down here. So the hair actually looks a little thicker. Normal, you know, sunlight, normal lighting. So yes, I am not wearing a hat tonight, just for the heck of it. Just for, you know, whatever. So Boris says, make an unpoppable guard. It had never happened before. And I've had these trimmers for like 10 years. So the little latch thing, a little plastic latch must have worn off and just popped off. All right. The madman says they're not used to this short hair yet. Trust me, neither am I. And I've had this for weeks now. So I'm going to mention this a few times tonight. There's no show next Monday night, which is the 16th. So what I'll be doing next week is I will actually have a live stream on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I'll actually go back to back. Reason is I've got an appointment downtown Chicago. I'm going to have to take the train in from the suburbs, and I highly doubt I will be back in time to get the show going. And if I did, I would probably be running in the door right at 7 o'clock Central. And we already know that if I don't have a little bit of time to get ready for the show, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, things go wrong. Things just go wrong. All right. So I will mention that a few times tonight because I know we'll have people popping in and out of chat as well. So let's jump on into the news because I've got a good eclectic mix of items tonight. Arriving next month from Pegasus Spiele is Fire and Stone. Here's what I know. In Fire and Stone, players lead their tribes through the Stone Age. They scout new lands, harvest nuts and mushrooms, and finally build villages. The aim of the game is to have the most successful tribe by exploring new lands, building huts, and gathering resources. With the invention of new tools and techniques like shipbuilding or pottery, the expansion of your tribe can be accelerated as well. Each space the scouts can enter contains upside-down discovered tokens. When a scout moves on one of those tokens for the first time, the token's revealed, and it triggers an effect. From now on, these tokens can then be used as a player action with a different effect. By the end of the game, the player who made the most victory points with villages and accomplishing tasks wins. Fire and Stone is for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up. Plays around 45 to 60 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $39.99 when it arrives on September 17th. The thing that has really caught my eye about this game is it is from the designer of Carcassonne. Nah. And I am a big fan of Carcassonne. And just vanilla Carcassonne, well, there's a few expansions that I like using as well. But I am a big fan of Carcassonne. So is my mom. So is my nephew Cameron. Everybody who's played Carcassonne with me really loves it. So I'm like, same designer, eh? Well, well. All right, moving right along, hitting stores just in time for Halloween from Ares Games is Last One Alive. Here's the deets. The zombie apocalypse has begun. Will you be able to survive? Arm and barricade yourself, use that chainsaw, perform heroic feats, but most of all, try to get the zombies to kill the others before they kill you. Everything is allowed in order to be the last one alive. Last One Alive is a fast and fun dice game for 2 to 5 players. The game's played in turns. Each player rolls a selection of dice to eliminate the attacking zombies or send them toward other players. If at the end of a player's turn any zombies are left, the player is overpowered and eliminated from the game. There are 4 different types of custom dice to choose from. Zombie dice will spawn zombies to kill or drive away. Shot dice will make you shoot zombies. Item dice will allow you to find precious items to survive. And barricade dice will allow you to build up your defense. Last One Alive is fast-paced. The rhythm of the game increases turn by turn as the number of zombies in play grows, and they become more and more deadly for the players using the zombie apocalypse rules. Get ready to face a real zombie apocalypse. You will die for it. What do they mean by a real zombie apocalypse? It's just a dice game, folks. Don't get too carried away. It's just a dice game. Last One Alive is for 2 to 5 players, ages 13 and up. Plays in around 15 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $19.90 when it arrives in October. You know what this kind of reminds me a little bit of? But I mean, it's obviously a much lighter game. A little bit of Run, Fight, or Die, which is from Gray Fox Games. And it's kind of the same thing. You're chucking dice. Now, granted, you're not getting items, but you're actually gathering survivors. I like Run, Fight, or Die. It's a Richard Linnaeus design. Or Linnaeus. I've heard people pronounce it Linnaeus, but I thought it's Richard Linnaeus. But it is a cool zombie game. I know. I'm doing a news piece about Last One Alive and talking about Run, Fight, or Die. But it sort of reminds me of it, but a lighter version of Run, Fight, or Die. Like I was going to say, in Run, Fight, or Die, you're actually gathering survivors and the ones who are the bigger pains in the ass that make life difficult for you, making it harder to actually survive the game, are obviously worth the most victory points. Nah, Flaming Heron's joined us. Good to see you, Flaming Heron. He is our other chat moderator. So we've got both our chat moderators hanging out in chat. So Nicholas says they got booted. That's weird. Well, we have recently had strange chat disconnects. That happens from time. In fact, it was happening almost every stream. So that started about 2 weeks ago. It was kind of funny because first thing that I would think is, oh, my internet dropped and the stream would drop. And that is not the case. At least, knock on wood right now. I say that, and of course, yeah, then the stream drops. It'd be like, okay. So the Fleming Huron says the mods take no responsibility for people getting accidentally booted. All right, it is Wednesday. Let's talk about an upcoming war game, because there is one that I think looks really, really interesting. And coming this fall from Verssen Games is Soldiers in Postmen's Uniforms. Here's the dope. Soldiers in Postmen's Uniforms is a skirmish-level solitaire game that takes place in the free city of Danzig on the first day of the Second World War. Danzig, present-day Dansk, came into being in 1920 in accordance with the 1919 Treaty of Versailles. Over the next 2 decades, the city became a flashpoint in Polish-German relations, which culminated in the Danzig Crisis of 1939. On the first day of the Second World War, German forces moved in to seize Polish installations in Danzig. 2 of the installations were on alert and under orders to hold out. The military transit depot on the peninsula of Westerplatte and the Polish Postal Office Number 1. The personnel at the post office repulsed repeated assaults and were forced to surrender only after a day-long siege when the post office was doused with gasoline and set alight. Though German propaganda cast these acts of defiance as futile and a failure, they were viewed by the Polish people as symbolic of their stand against a material, superior aggressor. In Soldiers in Postmen's Uniforms, you take control of the valiant defenders of Polish Postal Office Number 1, once again in the free city of Danzig. Under your command, the defenders must fend off relentless attacks from the Danzig Schutzpolizei and 2 German SS units. Soldiers in Postmen's Uniforms, say that 5 times fast, is once again a solitaire game. It's for ages 10 and up. I don't know if it's really for 10 and up, but that's what they're saying. A subject like this, to me, it's more like, 13 and up. Game plays in around 60 to 75 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $59.99 when it arrives in October. Sweet. I got to say, this looks very interesting. This had a successful Kickstarter. And out of all the war game companies out there, I mean, not that there's like thousands of them, but there are a few. Verssen Games makes awesome solitaire war games. Doesn't matter what the topic is, what the subject matter is, they do excellent solitaire games. So, and I have reviewed some, so I'm speaking from experience. I would love to be able to review this. I would really, really love to check this out. But I got to be honest, I don't, Verssen Games, at one point you send me like a lot of stuff and then nothing. And then I reached out and they sent the War of the Worlds game, which also was solitaire, which I liked. And then, nothing. Oh, wait, no, they did send Warfighter. I reviewed Warfighter as well. I'll reach out. I'll see, because this looks really interesting. And it sort of reminds me a little bit of the States of Siege games that we used to see from Victory Point Games. So, pretty cool. JP Falconer Honor. JPF has joined us in chat and says they got their Kickstarter edition of Soldiers today. Oh, talk about a coincidence. A coinkydink. If you played and liked Castle Eider or Pavlov's House, you'll like this. I haven't played either. So, don't know. The madman's like, wait a second, how did I miss the Kickstarter on this? I know, because the madman likes solitaire games. Solitaire war games as well. All right, hey, speaking of Kickstarter, currently up for crowdfunding on Kickstarter for Kobold Press is the Tome of Heroes for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Here's the skinny. Tome of Heroes for 5th edition delivers character options galore, heroic choices that have been judged and found worthy. New styles of magic and new weapon options, all new monk paths, the river folk halflings and expanded cat folk, the soul spy rogue, a path of the dragon for barbarians, cleric domains, and much more. Discover a beautiful, well-organized tome of 5e D&D character races, backgrounds, and classes to expand your game in new directions. This project yields a wealth of brand new, carefully developed, and play-tested material, all of it immediately usable in your next game. With more than 50 subclasses, from the Way of Concordant Motion Monk to the Bard's College of Shadows, your character choices are deeper than ever. Add 10 races, from the Catfolk to the Gearforged, alongside expansions for existing favorites, like dwarves and elves, to experience new options that push your character concepts in original directions. Then unearth a grimoire of new spells, a full chapter of new equipment suitable for both heroes and villains, and sprinkle in some entirely new schools of magic. And, well, things are about to get interesting. There is a short Kickstarter video. It's only about a minute long. So let's kick back and give it a peek.
The elf at home in snow-crusted mountains. The dwarf standing fast to defend the realm. The warlock who calls on the darkest primeval wood. The rogue with street smarts and forbidden knowledge. Every hero has a story to tell and a path to follow. Take your character to the next level with Tome of Heroes for 5e. Powerful new options for every player for the 5th edition of the world's first role-playing game. Tap into the perfect 5e subrace, subclass, or background. Command mighty spells or master dragon rune magic. Gear up with new weapons and eldritch trophies. Your only limit is the bounds of your imagination. Back the Tome of Heroes today to choose your story and follow your path.
See, I told you that it was a pretty quick video. This project is well past the 250% funding mark, and you can reserve a copy of the Tome of Heroes for 5e in hardcover for a $49 pledge. You can score the PDF for a $29 pledge through September 8th. Expected delivery on both digital and physical books is next April. I have to say, Kobold Press always has really solid artwork. I have to say that. They always have really nice artwork in the majority of books I've had a chance to kind of get an idea of. I got to be honest, though, thinking back, I don't think I've ever reviewed something from Kobold Press. Weird. Or maybe I have, but it's been a long time. So I don't know, but I did want to share this because, of course, it's more player options for D&D, and people love new player options for D&D. Wizards of the Coast knows that. So does Kobold Press. All right, my last news piece. A Book of Tales is now available in PDF for the Witcher role-playing game from our Talsorian Games. Here's the dope. Tales of magic and monsters as told by the world's greatest bard. Adventure across the world of The Witcher, uncovering its secrets, slaying its monsters, and bringing its stories to life, as entirely and truthfully recollected by the famed bard Dandelion. In this book, you'll travel from the cold mountains of Kovir to the wine-soaked region of Toussaint in Nilfgaard, meeting interesting characters along the way with intrigue around every corner. And I will apologize. I'm sure I've mispronounced all of those location names, but I got to be honest, I've never played any of the Witcher games, video games. A Book of Tales is a supplement for The Witcher pen and paper RPG that gives you 6 adventures that span the continent, complete with new monsters, player content, and maps, all compiled into a larger campaign. It features 6 adventures. Experience escapades across the continent, including a murder mystery in the heart of Mount Carbon, pulse-pounding combat in the Claremont Arena, and investigations in the mist-shrouded Alderwood. Once again, there's new player content. Expand your game with new weapons, new spells, and 3 new playable races: gnomes, Rom, and werebubs. And it also includes a connected campaign. Take your party on a journey across the continent by weaving all 6 adventures into a country-hopping trek. The 178-page PDF for The Witcher, A Book of Tales, is available right now at DriveThruRPG for $15. Cool. Good to see more stuff coming out for The Witcher, because a lot of people made a big deal about The Witcher when the role-playing game came out. I reviewed it. I got to be honest. I thought it was okay. There were some mechanics that I was, yeah. It's just me, right? It's just me. But I'm glad to see more stuff coming out for The Witcher. Hey, gotta say, the new Cyberpunk that our Talsorian Games came out with, Sammy loved. She thought it was awesome. I have not had a chance to see it. I might try to set something up at Gen Con with our Talsorian Games, because I did do an interview with the company, representative of the company, at the last Gen Con. So we will see. All right. So Kevin R. Smith has joined us in chat. JPF says Castle Eider would make a great movie. German army, U.S. troops, and French diplomats defend Castle Eider from an SS attack, and it is actually a true story. Cool. Very good. So Nicholas, talking about 5e, says the illusion of choice increased. Says unpopular opinion, there are already way too many subclasses and backgrounds in 5e. Nicholas. I'm old school. I say it time and time again. I'm one of these people where I'm like, I'd rather have all the backstory and everything else, all for the player characters, come from the actual adventures, not, them spending 8 hours sitting at home by themselves creating their characters. That's just not how I like to go about things. All right. Anyway, that is the news for tonight. Of course, I was talking about DriveThruRPG. Keep in mind, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit, say, DriveThruRPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads, and that way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep the Gaming Gang around. Also should point out, if you like the channel, if you like the website, if you like what I do, and you'd like to buy me a Coke or a cup of coffee or what have you, you can. You can go to paypal.me, that's M-E, not paypal.jeff, / the Gaming Gang, if you'd like to do that. Also, we are in the midst of week 3 of the Gaming Gang Game Auction 2021. And I've got some new items that are up only for this week. They're only up for auction this week, and then they will be gone. They will not be available again, including, in shrink, the Pathfinder Bestiary 2 battle cards. So, and I got to be honest, this is almost the weight where I'm not supposed to be picking things up. So I'm still at that don't lift things more than 5 pounds. It's pretty close to it. This is packed with the various different battle cards. I reviewed it. For some reason, Paizo sent me 2 copies. And they weren't together. I got 1 copy, and then a few weeks later, another one showed up. I was like, okay. So, pointing that out for you as well. So we've got that auction. It's running through Sunday. Also, no show on Monday. So I have an appointment downtown Chicago. I will probably not be back in time to do a show. And even if I did, I would probably be cutting it really close. And if you follow the gaming gang, you watch the live streams, you know I do not like to do things like last minute. Do not. So I will be doing shows on Tuesday and Wednesday next week. So we'll do live streams. Once again, we're going to have more live streams. I don't know if I'm going to go back to 4 a week anytime soon, but I'm thinking maybe end of the month or after Gen Con, I'll be doing at least 3. I'll be doing 3 shows. Speaking of Gen Con, do want to say if there is a company out there you'd like to see me sit down and talk with at Gen Con, shoot a video review, please let me know. You can do so in the comment section. If you follow me on Twitter, you can hit me up on Twitter. So far, I've got things set up to, and I haven't really started reaching out much. I've got it with AEG. I'm also going to be talking with Czech Games Edition and probably Goodman Games. Trying to reach out to do an interview with Harley Stroh because he seems like a very, very nice guy, and he is an excellent adventure writer. So I'm looking to try to sit down with him. And I know Nicholas had reached out and left a list of like 15 companies that he'd like to see me do interviews with. I'm probably only going to do about 20 interviews. So one thing to keep in mind, a lot of companies don't like doing interviews or anything like that before noon because the exhibit hall opens at 10 and they want to focus on selling product when the doors open. So, and I completely understand that. The Madman's asking about Ares Games. And I know he had mentioned that before. I will try to set something up with Ares Games. I have to say that usually the person I would set things up with, gosh, I can't remember his last name. First name's Jim. His 2 daughters were working for Ares, and one of them left, and the younger daughter kind of took over her position. And the last Gen Con, he was talking about he was retiring from Ares. So I will do my best to reach out to try to set something up. I cannot guarantee it. Fingers crossed, though. Usually the funny thing is I would do interviews with Ares Games at Origins, usually, because they normally have a really big exhibit area and not so much at Gen Con, but I will try. So Flaming Heron says that Nicholas was just covering all the bases. Yeah, he just went and just did a list of every role-playing game company. Here, talk to these people. Oh, I'll probably be talking to the folks who are behind Battle Lords of the 24th Century as well. And finally, do want to mention, before we jump into Sigil and Shadow from Osprey Games, I went to do my cardiovascular rehab today. And as I'd mentioned before, I think I mentioned before, there's a young man who comes in after I do. And he underwent a heart transplant. So, and it turns out, I guess he's like really into games. So I had asked the nurse, because they remember me from the last time 3 years ago when I did the cardiovascular rehab for the stent I had put in. This time, of course, if you're not familiar, I had a triple bypass, so it's a little different. I'm a lot more sore. I'll tell you that much. Not terrible, but I was never sore before. Now I am. Anyway, so it turns out that he's into board games and that. And according to the nurse, she said, "Oh, well, like Monopoly and things like that." I was like, well, I mean, those aren't the kind of board games that I normally cover, but I'll tell you what, we'll see what we can do. If he's, because he's supposed to, I met him for like 5 minutes. He's like early 20s. And I said to Kelly, is the one nurse, I said, hey, if he sticks to doing what he needs to do for you in that, I said, I'll bring in, I'm not talking, huge board games, but I have a lot of like smaller footprint board games that just are collecting dust. I'm like, you know what? I'll bring those in. I'll bring one in every week. And if he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, you're more than happy to give him the game. But I thought it was very funny. There's another gentleman there. He's probably about 60. And we were talking a little bit. Well, he overheard the discussion about the games. And he said, yeah, my son and I, we play Magic the Gathering. I said, really? He goes, oh, yeah, we've played for years. And he said, my son is 34 years old. He said, we got into, I think he said Yu-Gi-Oh! When his son was like 14. And then before his son went to college, he said, hey, you know what? I'd like to get into Magic the Gathering because, of course, it's just a more adult game than Yu-Gi-Oh! Would be. And I thought it was hysterical because he's like, yeah, we play Commander. And he said, I play Magic the Gathering Arena every morning to get my day started. I was like, oh, that's pretty wild. He said, oh, yeah, my son's really into Dungeons and Dragons. So, of course, I usually have a card with me, so I did. So I said, hey, tell your son, check out my website. And then I had to laugh because, once again, like I said, this gentleman's probably 60-ish, maybe a little older than that. And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, he said, oh, yeah, all we do is we only play Magic. He goes, I don't play anything else. He said, well, except role-playing games. He goes, role-playing games are really good. I was like, oh, so it's not just Magic. Talk about small world. We sit here and so many of us who've been involved in the hobby for a long time, we assume nobody plays, right? That if we mention, oh, yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, not so much anymore. But if you were like, oh, yeah, we play Call of Cthulhu all the time, and you're assuming people are going to be like, what the hell is that? Nowadays, not so much. All right. So I'm sure there are plenty of folks who have been waiting to get a look at Sigil and Shadow, which is from Osprey Games. This role-playing game is written by R.E. Davis with artwork provided by Luis F. Sanz. The 208-page hardcover is available right now for $35, or you can grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $24.50. Boris says, small world, big hobby. I know, pretty wild. Grab a sip before we dive on in. So let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Sigil and Shadow. So let me just quickly, just double check and make sure that everything's in focus. Have to mention when I did the first look at Hidden Strike American Revolution the other night, I think, because I always play around with the shutter speed and lighting and stuff like that. It seemed kind of dark. So I've lightened it up a little bit. The Madman says they wore a D&D shirt to a Starbucks, and a barista commented and wanted to know where I bought the shirt. I have to laugh, too, because, and we're going to jump into Sigil and Shadow in a second, I promise. But I have to kind of chuckle because I was wearing a D&D shirt and went to the dollar store, and the cashier there, he started talking about D&D. And then I was wearing my Goonies t-shirt today, and the young man who had the heart transplant said, hey, I got that same shirt. I said, yeah, Loot Crate. He goes, yep. So I just had to laugh. I haven't run across too many people who had the same t-shirt from Loot Crate. Kevin Thorpe has joined us in chat. Nice to see you, Kevin. All right. So Kevin says they saw this on Amazon UK for around 18 pounds. Isn't that around $35? That's the MSRP here. So Kevin says, nothing makes me feel older than parents and children playing Magic together, except the cast of Night Court dying off. Yeah, there's just a lot of people who I grew up with. It's like, ew. Like, I'm a big Blackhawks fan. Tony Esposito just passed away. I was like, oh wow, Tony O's gone. Right, let's take a look at the back. Ghosts, vampires, the monster in your closet, the boogeyman under your bed, the cryptid you read about online. They're all real. They lurk in our shadows. They linger in our reflections. Good people make pacts with demons they find online. Creatures from beyond time prowl the city streets. Forgotten rituals are reborn as vital memes, or viral, I should say memes. I gotta say, this print is pretty small. The rich and powerful consort with ancient beings behind boardroom doors. Entities beyond our comprehension exploit our desires, gorge themselves on our fears, and manifest as our nightmares. Sigil Shadow is a role-playing game of modern horror, occultism, and fantasy. It is a world where myth, magic, and urban legend collide with our modern post-truth zeitgeist. Players take on the roles of investigators, mystics, occultists, hunters, and monsters, fighting back against the tides of strange and supernatural forces that press against our fragile facade of reality. Do you take a stand against the encroaching shadows, or do you seek their power for yourself? Kevin mentions they're a big fan of D100 light systems like Jackals, which I recently reviewed, as well as the first campaign adventure for Jackals. Nicholas says, this looks so cool. All right, so what's going to happen here is I'm going to do a page through. We're going to look at some stuff, but I am going to skip some things as well. I'm also going to stay up here in the left corner, picture in picture, although I'm not cutting off much of this book. Do you want to mention this is an A5 hardback? So there you go. Nicholas just asked, is this an A5? It is. So this is the standard size that we see the Osprey hardcovers. So this is pretty standard for them. So Christopher Rush has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Christopher. Says this game looks neat. But the question from Kevin was about the like D100 light kind of systems. I don't know what sort of mechanics this utilizes. I don't know if it's a D20. It could be, multiple D6s. I don't know. So Christopher points out they love Osprey books. I like them too. And they seem to actually like my coverage. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to take a look at some stuff. Oh, there we go. It is a D100. So it's possible Kevin already knew that. I did not. Once again, this is the first time I've cracked this book open, because when I do first looks, they really are first looks. I hadn't even read the back of the book. Just how I like to do things. We get to experience this for the first time together. So it's talking about mature subject matter, which of course any role-playing game that's going to deal with horror and really urban fantasy, I would also say is going to be geared more towards a mature audience. So it's talking about the themes of urban fantasy and occult horror. So 10-sided dice are used in this game and are abbreviated D within the rules. Yeah, okay. So we've got rolling a D100, so percentile dice. And if you roll doubles, that's considered a crucial result, saying there's added benefits or consequences to the action. So I'm going to take a guess, because we actually have seen this kind of mechanic before from Osprey Games, where if you roll doubles on your percentile dice and it's underneath your skill score, then that's kind of a critical success. But if it's over your skill score, then it's a critical failure. So I'm taking a guess. We do have advantage and disadvantage, looks like. So it says the core mechanic is a success value. Is that going to be like the skill score? Says this type of roll is called an action check. The success value is a percentile rating based on one of the character's ability scores and adjusted by their skill training and other modifiers. There we go. Cool deal. The bone pile, the golden rule. Golden rule for just about every role play game is if you don't like a rule, don't worry about it. Make up your own damn rules. Crinkles joined us in chat. Very cool. So Crinkle says they just got off work, sitting down to eat dinner in a live first look. And I guess Crinkle had a bad day. I'm sorry to hear you had a bad day. Kick back, relax. We're taking a first look at Sigil and Shadow. I swear, I'm going to say Sigil and Smoke at some point. I am really doing my best not to say that. All right, so this is kind of modern horror. This is urban fantasy. There was a comment in the community section of the channel. Somebody was talking about how there's far too many of these like horror role-playing games where it's, it's a shadow world. And I understand that. I mean, they do kind of extend from the World of Darkness releases from back in the day. And of course, World of Darkness games are still around. But kind of interesting that, the like whole masquerade kind of thing. So we've got our character creation. So we have 4 abilities: strength, dex. I'm going to take a guess. It's logic. It's LOG, and will. So you got skills as well. We have castings. There are character archetypes. So far, and I'm not passing any sort of judgment whatsoever, but so far I do notice there is a lot of kind of traditional mechanics here that are being referred to as something like with a different name. I'm not usually very big on that because to me, I think it kind of confuses people sometimes who are experienced with role-playing games. But just saying. So, and I mean that by like castings. Well, why didn't you just say it's an archetype? Because you say it's a character archetype. Why didn't you just call it an archetype? So we've got the seeker, the hunter, the protector, the keeper. Oh, from Call of Cthulhu? The shadowed. So these are just regular humans, I'm taking a guess. And then these are people who are touched by the dark forces, maybe. So we've got the afflicted, the devoted, the host, and the ravenous. So we got backgrounds and oddities. Talking about different character backgrounds. Blue collar, entertainer. Yeah, baby, I'm an entertainer. Let's go kill some zombies. So we got oddities. Raised in a cult or experiment. Interesting. So Christopher says, hey, I like this art. Hey, it's Smokey, my cat. I think I mentioned before. She's not on the stream very often, but she is all black. So, and that was the reason why I adopted her. And she was a really good little cat when I went to the shelter. But I was told that a lot of people didn't like adopting black cats. And I was like, what? Really? I was like, come on. It's the 21st century, for crying out loud. But, So Kevin says the art is nice, but they wish there was more. That is kind of a thing that we see with Osprey role-playing games, is we get a sprinkling of artwork, and it's pretty good, but we don't get a ton of artwork. And I will say, not that I'm necessarily trying to defend Osprey, but I will, I guess. When we have a smaller book like this, I appreciate the fact that it's not overloaded with artwork and you've got a lot of gameable material in here. We'll mention that the font isn't tiny, but it is kind of small. But you can see we've got a lot of information packed in here. So it looks like these are the different skills. We've got different perks, special powers. I grew up in the streets. So we got positives and negatives. One hell of a cook, but can't keep secrets. So looks like we've got a variety of different like positives and negatives for your characters. Once again, this is a modern role-playing game set in the modern day. So we usually have something like that. So Christopher points out they've got a black cat, sits with him when he's GMing games. And his players have accused her of hexing their roles. That's funny. Jokingly, of course. Yeah, I am a cat person. Although I've had dogs in my life as a kid. It's just I usually had to make sure that I had pets that could kind of care for themselves for like a day, and dogs really can't do that. But yeah, little kids and animals like me. So that's kind of weird. Everybody else, yeah, jury's still out. So Crinkle said the book looks small. Either that or your hands are huge. Yes, I have monster hands. No, it's an A5, Crinkle. I think Kringle came in late on that. Yes. Yeah, I make Andre the Giant look like a midget. No. No. Kringle, I should point out, this does carry an MSRP of $35 if you want the hardcover. It is available in PDF from DriveThruRPG for $24.50, which once again, got to point out, I wish, and I think this would really benefit Osprey Games, especially with the role-playing games, if they brought the price of the PDFs down a little bit. Because as we just pointed out, there's not a ton of artwork in the books. So it's not as if that they got to boost up the price point of the PDFs because of having to pay artists. But Osprey is well known for their military books. And that is their bread and butter. Military books, historical books, that is Osprey's ballpark. Gaming is something that they're relatively new at. So it's, it's just basically I guarantee they do their pricing the same way on PDFs for their gaming books as they do with their historical books. So Russell Higgins has joined us asking if the guard fell off the clippers again. No, this is the hair growing in. I thought because every few years I don't wear a hat. So anyway, Kevin mentions they're getting a whole lot of lag. So they are bowing out. I am not seeing any drop frames, and it looks like we are doing pretty steady on the stream here. So got to be a YouTube thing. It is not happening on my end. So anyway, good to see you, Russell. Thanks for hanging out with us. So Flaming Heron says, yeah, they're a bit pricier considering some books with more pages and from bigger systems charge about the same. So everybody else is chiming in. There's they're not receiving any lag. Hey, speaking of like video quality, I have tried with like the review videos. I have changed the frames per second. So if I remember to do it when I do my rendering. So when you see the Atlantic Chase review tomorrow, if you're, curious about it and you check it out, I'm curious what you think of the video quality. Everything just seems much smoother. Granted, it's a bigger file, and it takes longer to render. So we got different actions. We have tasks. We have combat scenes. I'm taking a guess this is probably a kind of like a scene-based role-playing game, like many are these days. So we go from, from point A to point B to point C. Got special effects, contested tasks. Once again, if you were tuning in a little later, this is a D100 system. So if you are familiar with, say, basic role playing or RuneQuest or Call of Cthulhu, this should be pretty easy for you to get into. As well as they have like a critical and they have a like critical success and failure mechanism when you roll doubles on your dice. And there is advantage as well as a mechanic here. So this is the cover artwork. And I think right here, these ghostly apparitions here is why I keep having to stop myself from accidentally calling this game Sigil and Smoke. It is Sigil and Shadow. So Nicholas says, yeah, they'd like to see a larger font. Yeah, that would increase the page count, of course. So we've got mysticism. So now it looks like we're getting into like magical powers, hexes, mesmerism, I think is how it's what it's called. Telepathy. Okay, now we get into the shadows. So these are the characters who've been like touched by the darkness. So Flaming Heron says, yeah, I just have to get people willing to join me for a virtual game. Yes, I know. I would really love to be running some old school Renaissance fantasy role-playing games. Just, just kind of seat in my pants, having fun. It's not happening. It's just not happening. My best friend Elliot Miller can't get out enough for me to, start doing that. And I've offered to run it for his family who they play role-playing games, but they don't seem too interested. So it's like, okay. All right. So the inverted pyramid. To help navigate this conversation, we can visualize the different steps and keys as an upside down pyramid to help funnel spell creation. You're also free to start at the bottom and work your way up. Talking about effects of spells, methods of casting those, grades and difficulties. So it looks like we've got just kind of different magical powers. Grimoires learning and practicing. So I got some optional rule there about learning. Summoning entities. Sigils, which are magical seals, if I remember correctly. That's what a sigil is. So magical items, sample spells. Looks like we got a few here. I of course, I would think that you're not really looking at like tons and tons of spells, unlike even a Call of Cthulhu game, which most of your player characters, they don't have a ton of spells. NPCs usually do because they've lost all their sanity. Doesn't matter. So Kringle says, just play online. Online play is fine if you can find good people. I've tried to even talk to people into, doing some online stuff. Doesn't seem it. So Nicholas says they're getting a lot of lag now too. I apologize. Once again, let me take a quick peek. It's not on this end. It is not on this end. So Flaming Heron asks if I was still thinking of running a game sometime in the future. Yeah, I was bouncing it around. I would still like to do it. Maybe set aside like Sunday after. Well, probably not Sunday afternoon because the Bears games during the fall. I would say maybe like Saturday afternoons or early Saturday evening, something like along those lines. So it looks like this is kind of a bestiary. Hey, dude, what's going on? Cool. See, now here we're getting more artwork. The Tower Sentinel. Was that old hag? No, old hat? Okay. I guess, is it a shadow person or something? Yeah, it says, um, while all shadow people are uncomfortable anomalies to encounter, the one they call Old Hat is the most frightening. Oh my goodness! Then again, maybe without a hat, maybe that's a little scarier. Kevin says they have a transatlantic online group. Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind doing something like that. I would love to kind of dive a little more into the Foundry because I received a copy of it and it's pretty cool. So Kringle says this is like kind of World of Darkness goes Cthulhu. Well, I'm not seeing much mythos in this. So do we get an adventure in here or not? Kind of curious. So campaign settings, got some random tables there. 5 factions feuding. Yes, faction play. All good role-playing game adventures. Doesn't matter what the genre is. All good role-playing game adventures and campaigns have factions in them. If you do not have factions bumping up against each other, you're missing out on some really good role-playing. So some tips for facilitating play. So it looks like this is more along the lines of a little bit of GM facing. So we've got an appendix here. So maybe no adventure. Ghost characters. Players want to play a ghost. So Flaming Heron says, do they normally do adventures in their core books? If I remember correctly, I think Jackals had a short adventure. I know Paleo Mythic, which I liked. I thought that was really nicely done. Paleo Mythic had like 3 short little adventures. And I mean, they were short. They were more like encounters. I think 2 of them were more like encounters. One was a bit longer. But yeah, usually there is, if memory serves correctly. You got to remember, I look at so many role playing games. Sometimes I'm like, which one had the? All right, so that is Sigil and Shadow. Not once did I call this Sigil and Smoke. Big thumbs up. This is from Osprey Games. It is written by R.E. Davis. Clocks in at 208 pages. This hardcover is available right now for $35, or you can snag the PDF from DriveThruRPG for $24.50. All right. So, of course, I will have a review of Sigil and Shadow in the very near future. I'll probably read this over the weekend. Speaking of role-playing games, I have a trio. Well, I shouldn't say I personally, because Sammy's got some reviews. So you will find a trio of new Pathfinder and Starfinder reviews popping up on the Gaming Gang in the next few days. I recently reviewed the Starfinder Galaxy Exploration Manual. Sammy just reviewed Dinner at Lions. I'm trying to remember. It's Lions Den or something like that. So got 3 more reviews coming up. So we'll see. As far as new stuff from Paizo that's come out like this month, no, I haven't seen anything. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be the same thing as it's been kind of like piecemeal. Sometimes things show up, sometimes they don't. Or if we're going to see monthly releases for Starfinder and Pathfinder. I don't know. I have no idea. Flaming Heron points out that they snapped up the really cool bundle over on Humble Bundle, which I think you could get everything. If I remember right, it's tons of stuff for $35. And if you paid $50, you actually got a physical copy of the Starfinder beginner box, which is excellent, as well as, I want to say it's the Packed Worlds hardcover. So Just the hardcover and the beginner box alone would be more than $50. So it's really, really nice. Really, really nice deal. So Nicholas is saying, go Packers. That's fine. I'm a Bears fan. Yeah. It's like I'm a Cubs fan, Blackhawks fan, Bulls fan. Although I don't watch the Bulls as often as I used to. But yeah, I'm just a Chicago sports fan. And I don't hate the White Sox either. I, I'm hoping they go far this year. So anyway, should point out once again, if you tuned in late, there will not be a stream on Monday. No show on Monday. I've got an appointment downtown, and I probably will not get back in time for the show. And if I did, I would probably be walking in last minute, and I hate doing live streams where I'm basically running down into the duct tape studios to like just crank everything up and start streaming. Because things always go wrong, never fails. Things just go wrong. Anyway, Kabuki Kid has popped in to say hello. Good to see you, Double K. Yes, I'm just about to wrap up the show, so Double K's late to the party. Anyway, what I'll be doing next week is I will have live streams on Tuesday and Wednesday instead of Monday and Wednesday. On Tuesday's show, we are going to unbox and take a first look at Merv. This is the new edition of Merv. This is also from Osprey Games. And it looks pretty impressive. Now, this is a new edition. I know the game has been out previously. I believe it was available through a different game company. I think it had a different publisher. But Osprey Games has it now, and looks kind of interesting. So essentially what you're trying to do, it's the heart of the Silk Road. So I believe you're trying to build wealth and power by trading. It says, yes, look at this. It says, players are trying to amass power and wealth in the prosperous city at the center of the world. So, oh, and it says, outside, I was going to say, I had heard about this game. Yes, Kabuki Kisses Merv, a game about a talk show host. I was going to say something about that, and then I thought, well, people actually catch that reference. I was going to say, yes, it's a game about becoming a talk show host and then being the producer of a bunch of game shows. Yeah, boy, Merv Griffin, when he passed away, he had a lot of money. So, yes, I was going to say, you also have to worry about the Mongols invading and attacking the city. So, sweet. So we'll take a look at that on Tuesday. All right. That is it for this time out. Once again, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. Not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live right here on YouTube, also let you know when I upload other videos, such as tomorrow's review of Atlantic Chase from GMT Games. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Those of you who are watching live, thank you very much. Always appreciate people taking time out to kick back and chat, keeping me company so I don't look like a complete doofus just talking to nobody. But then again, I know a lot of people out there do not have the opportunity to watch the show live. Hey, thank you as well for tuning in. I appreciate anybody who stops by and watches any of the videos on the channel. Thank you very, very much. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Once again, I will return on Tuesday with a first look at Merv from Osprey Games. And of course, until I see you next, here's hoping each and every one of you have an opportunity to enjoy some great gaming with your own gang. Oh, you're still here. Well, while you're kicking it, how about subscribing to the Gaming Gang channel? Or seeing the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch? Or finding out what YouTube recommends you check out here at my channel? And of course, don't forget, get your geek on at thegaminggang.com.